Green Gorilla beat. The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers. Now, before I get things started, I gotta give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel like I always do. So let's get to it. Shout out to B Hill 5, J Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Nameless Protagonist, The Face, Rais Muajid, Mark Swift, Show Me, Black Dog, Odd Collard, Craig, Raphael Brown, Omni Americana, Deanne, Donna Watts, Barry Little, Ryan Jackson, HipHop.catv, Coach DC, The Remedy, Kashif Caldwell, Infamous Chillin', I Am Black Man, Nichita, True King 337, May Rest in Heaven, Force Windu, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolis, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, The Book of Ronin, Ab Media 83, Damon Harris, Brian McMurray, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Shop Talk Live, Mr. Heat, Afro Analyst, NEU, Isa Abdul Zahir, Sir Anthony, Deshaun Nolly, MLR, Charles Rogers, Universal 178, Blacksword 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, See Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Black Pill Ned Stark, Author Unknown, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalon Jakala, Sherrod Martin, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, W. Barrett One, Roguish the Billmonger, I Care, BGS Ivmore, Marvin Battle Jr., Kwaku 217, S. Haywood, Dragon 59, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, NEU, Momal, William Ruffin, and a Saint. Shout out to y'all, man, and thank you for helping me to keep the channel going and to keep things up and running. I appreciate your help and your support. You know, you all deserve a round of applause. Thank you so much for being members of the Green Gorilla channel and helping out. Thank you. I appreciate that help and that support. Y'all get my highest honors. And that's honest. And if you are inquiring about how you can become a member of the Green Gorilla channel, well, here's how. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. All right, y'all. So we back at it like a crack addict. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Thank you, Julius Ferguson, for becoming a member of the Green Gorilla channel. And shout out to everybody out there in the chat. Doc LaRock, thank you. TIP H Bud, thank you, sir. Shout out to you. Welcome, Doc LaRock and Julius Ferguson, to the Green Gorilla channel. Thank you for your memberships. You guys help me to keep things going and to help things stay running smoothly, man. I appreciate you for all your help and your support. I really and truly do, man. GG, he says, where are you from originally? I am from St. Louis, bruh. That's where I'm from, baby. Kasuth and Redbud. Kasuth and Fur. That's where I'm from, bruh. St. Louis, baby. So that's where I'm from, brother. Now, you know, let me just say this, man. Shout out to Mr. Hanma. Shout out to Don Calypso, Raphael Brown. Shout out to you, Kareen Henry. Shout out to Julius Ferguson, Mark Swift, Dr. Rock, Tip Bud, Mark Swift again, Cam Bash, Digger Tyrone, Malika Mabane. What's good, brother? Culture first, politics second, and economics third. What's good with you? Barry Little, what's cracking, man? Third War Colombian, what's good? You know, what's up, Herbert Lewis? What's cracking, man? Phyllis Day and Lee Rittenhour, who've been waiting from the very beginning. And look, I know the title of this, you know, show that I'm doing tonight, or the topic that I'm speaking on, it might appear to be clickbait. but in actuality, it's not. You see, in our culture, we have no problem with pointing out men's flaws at all. None whatsoever. Like if your daddy is a crackhead, a wino, alcoholic, deadbeat, homeless, abusive, rapist, jailbird, anybody, anywhere has no problem saying exactly what your daddy is. It's off. The gloves are off. Nobody has a problem with pointing it out. Everybody is willing to tell the truth about your daddy. Whatever it is. It don't matter what it is. Your daddy could just have had a hip replacement surgery or some shit. Everybody will know about it. If your daddy was a swindler, bigamist, player, Rolling Stone, whatever he is, everybody is willing to say what your daddy is. However, when it comes to your mama, you can't say nothing. Nothing at all. I remember being a little boy, man, and you know, one of the most offensive things you can say to somebody else is, your mama. As soon as you say, your mama, everybody's ready to start a fight. Everybody's ready to get right to it. No questions. No rebuttals, no waiting. Unless it's your homie and then y'all kind of having fun and y'all jabbing at each other, playing the dozens, whatever. Y'all joning. But if you don't know that guy, he says, your mama, then it's on. It's a fight about to break out. But I've never heard, or if I have heard it, it's been rare where I have heard it, where you say, your daddy, and somebody gets upset. Your father. Where is he? Where that nigga at? Where's my daddy? Because a lot of y'all grew up without your daddy. Your daddy wasn't around. Your daddy wasn't there. And everything your mother said about your daddy, if your mother said something about your daddy, you believed it. You didn't wait and assess and get a judgment about your father on your own. You didn't give the man a chance. Many of you, I can't say all of you here. I'm not, because I'm preaching to the choir here. Okay? But the reality is, it's some guys here that had single mothers. Got to be. The numbers are too large for it not to be true. But everybody loves their mother. Because mother's the one that wiped your little nose off. Mama's the one that cooked the meals. Mama's the one that came to pick you up from school. Mama was the one to wet up a napkin and get the cold out your eye before she let you out the car on your way to school. Nobody by now never say nothing about your mama. Nothing. But the truth of the matter is, man, some of y'all mamas was some Bussdowns, bruh. Let's just keep it a buck, man. We gotta keep it 100, man. I don't mean to burn you in the flames like that, but I got to. I gotta burn you in the flames. Dracarys. I hate to say that, man. I don't want black men to turn on their mothers at all. I'm being direct as fuck, because I said at the beginning, you can say all kind of shit about your motherfucking daddy. But if you say something about your mama, you turning on your mama. But you can turn on your goddamn daddy, but you can't say shit about your motherfucking mama. Am I lying or am I telling the truth about this shit right here? And some of you niggas out here know your mama on some bullshit and dead goddamn wrong for a whole bunch of shit she done in her life. But you can't say shit about it. Nothing. That's where this whole thing start, where you can't tell women shit at all. That's where it start. That's where it start. And I ain't got no daddy issues, bruh. My daddy in my life, bruh. And I had a good mother. My mother wasn't no bust down, but I guess I know she busted it open that night when I was conceived. Now, if you don't like the truth, get the fuck on down the road. I don't mind you getting the fuck off my spot. I really don't. I really don't give a fuck. You can see your way out the door, partner. We tell the truth all the way live here. If you don't like it, get the fuck on down the road, nigga. I'm telling the truth, bruh. You don't like it, get the fuck on down. You ain't gonna make me or break me, kid. Real talk. Motherfuckers say, even though she was a crack fiend mama, she always was a black queen mama. I know dudes whose mamas are crackheads. For a fact, actual factuals. 100 keeping it real. Can't say shit about her, huh? But you can talk about his mama. You can evaluate and judge his mama. Because a lot of y'all evaluate and judge women quite often, a whole hell of a lot, but you can't bring it close to home, now can you? You can't bring it home, though, huh? Hit you in your heart, though, huh? Hit you in your motherfucking heart. Like it's like you about to have a heart attack, huh? You know what? Have a heart attack, nigga. I don't give a fuck. We keep it real over here. Plus the strike. It is what it is. Like it or love it. Because the truth is the truth. 365 days out of the year, 24 hours a day. It is what it is. The truth is the truth. 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day. It is what it is. 60 minutes in an hour. It is what it is. And unfortunately, some of your mothers are Bussdowns, meaning they engaged in slovenly behavior. Some of y'all got brothers that should have brothers. And some of y'all willing to defend women even when you know they goddamn dead wrong. Even though you know they dead wrong, you'll defend them. You talk about simp culture, that's where the shit starts. Some of you guys got your motherfucking mouth still nestled around your mother's breast. It is what it is. It is what it is. Now we can talk about how we got to that point, how it happened, how it occurred, how this culture arrived the way that it is, and how it is. We can talk about that. We can discuss that. But the reality is, this shit has become normalized. There's no shame in it at all. Now, if you got a daughter, do you want your daughter to be exposed to a situation in which she don't know who her baby daddy is because she fucking 3 or 4 different dudes and she don't know who the baby daddy is when she got to go somewhere and get some support? which she shouldn't have to do anyway. That's what you want for yours? Or you gonna tell her, don't be loose out here, keep your legs closed if that dude that you're dealing with ain't prepared to take care of you and yours. Because when you fucking, it has consequences to it, especially if you fucking and you ain't protecting yourself. Hey, dog, I'm not dividing men at all. I ain't dividing nobody. I'm telling the truth. I ain't told no lies. I ain't dividing men. Either you can handle the truth or you can't handle it. Period. Either you can handle the truth or you cannot. I'm taking it where it needs to be taken. I'm taking it where it needs to be taken. Because this kind of shit is the very thing which prevents men from being able to say anything about women at all. Now, you can say anything about your daddy. Nobody gives a fuck about somebody saying something about their daddy. You can say anything about your daddy. Oh, my daddy ain't shit. My daddy ain't shit. Fuck my daddy. And you know what? You hear any man anywhere say, oh, well, you know, it's fighting words right there. You ever hear that? Nobody says that. Nobody's ready to get into a fight about the honor of their father. Nobody. Nobody's willing to do it. Not one person. Because I know how all this started. I know how it all began. I know how this shit began, bruh. I've been doing this series talking about welfare culture and prison and thug culture in the black community. I know how all of this began. I studied it. Now I'm talking to you like a black person. Because I'm black, you black, we black. This the barbershop. This the bar. This the cigar bar. This ain't the school. This ain't the podium. This is real shit right here. We talking about a culture that's dysfunctional. And they trying to make it out like it is functional. It ain't functional. We talking about consequences that's going to have lasting effects for generations to come. And nobody wants to say shit because they got their love for their mama. They've been reared to revere their mothers. This is where this respect for womanhood comes from. You love your mama, but you don't give a fuck about your daddy. Fuck that nigga. I know a whole bunch of dudes with daddy issues. And I know a whole bunch of women with daddy issues. A whole lot. And I love my mother, man. My mother, she's dead. She's deceased. I saw my mother take her last breath. She didn't want me to leave her sight. It's a hell of a thing. My mother didn't go to some old folks' home where she died by herself. She died in my presence and demanded my presence until she took her last breath. So I love my mother. But when my mother was on some bullshit, I told her, I said, you know what, Ma? Right now, you're on some bullshit. And I ain't got time to hear no bullshit right now. If my mother was on some bullshit, I would tell her, what you're on right now is some bullshit. And I'd leave. Might come as a shock to some people. But I was willing to check my mother if I had to check her. She can't come where I'm at in my spot and start dictating what the fuck is about to go down in my world. Now, she can give me advice, but she can't dictate my actions. But the reality of the situation is, some of y'all moms was on some bullshit. And this makes the bullshit acceptable. It's not acceptable because your mother did it. It ain't acceptable because your mother promotes it. It ain't acceptable because you can't deal with the cognitive dissonance that's going through your brain cells. And it was a time when, and see, let me just say this about protecting women. See, people don't understand this because they don't have foresight. You can protect someone before the damage is done. Or you can try to clean up a mess after shit is all over the floor, milk spilled everywhere. What's the better alternative? Preventative care or dealing with palliative care? I'd rather deal with preventative care than to deal with palliative care. Now we can talk about how all this began, which I intend to do. But I know how this started. And we're going to explore, we're going to look at some conservative thinkers, and we're going to see what they have to say about the behavior. We're going to look at institutions again and figure out what caused us to be where we are. But I can tell you this, once habits get started, they're hard to break. So it's best not to develop a bad habit to begin with. And people don't understand the origin of things. They just know what's occurring now. They don't know what the origin is. If I was to ask you right now, what is the origin of a handshake? What would be your answer to that question? What's the origin of handshaking? Why did men develop the practice of shaking hands? Very few people can give me an answer. What's the origins of handshaking? But if you go somewhere and you put out your hand and you have it extended and another man doesn't shake it, you'll be offended. But it's a habit. The reason men shake each other's hands, it was a practice starting in about the 5th century in Greece, where men shook each other's hands to determine whether or not there was a weapon. And you shake it to make sure that he doesn't have a weapon hidden. Exactly. It's a gesture of peace. What's the reason? Right now, I know it's a whole bunch of guys that have been exposed to this. Take your hat off when you come in my house. What's the reason for taking the hat off when you go in the house? What's the reason that you take your hat off when you go in the house or people ask you to do it? I can tell you the answer to the question, but I'm gonna sit and see if you got the answer. I'm gonna hit my stick right quick. Why do you got to take your hat off when you go in the house? Or why do people compel you to do this? Well, the reason is because at one point in time, men actually went out to work. To work. And when they worked, they had dirt and dust on their hat. So when they came in the house, it was customary for men to take off their hats so that they wouldn't get dust all over the furniture and on the floor. That is the reason why. Look it up. Where did the habit of taking off your hat come from? It's because men would work and they would come home with dirty hats and dust all over their hats, and it would dirty up the house. That's why they were basically told to get the hats off. Now, you ask the average woman who's demanding this of you, she probably has no clue about what the real source or origin of that practice is. But that's the reason why you take off your covers when you walk indoors. That's the reason behind it. But you know what happens? Human beings, we like to perceive ourselves as so rational. We like to perceive ourselves as thinkers, when most of the time we're on automatic pilot. Because human beings, look at the social scientific research, we operate under crude, intelligized emotions and habits. That's our primary mode of being in the world. Now, we're openly ready to admit when men fuck up. We'll disrespect our fathers, but we'll offer no disrespect, even if the disrespect is warranted owing to a moral flaw or failure. We'll just accept it. And in virtue of that, every woman expects the same sort of treatment. They all feel like they deserve the same honored status. This was not always the case. Just like men could be humiliated, women could also be humiliated. It's called praise and blame. But at the current moment, if you blame women for anything, there's a cultural norm put in place that basically asserts that you're being misogynistic. You could be called toxic, a rapist, a sexist, abuser, a whole host of names and epithets can be issued towards you, but you can't say shit about women. You can't say nothing about them. And all women ain't fucked up, but all men ain't fucked up either. When you right, you right. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Don't matter if you got a penis or a uterus. If you right, you right. You wrong, you wrong. Right now, thought culture is normalized. Slovenly behavior is normalized. It is what it is. And we have to admit this, we have to accept this, and the only way it can even begin to change is if men say, that right there is some fucked up behavior that's being exhibited by you. Now it's too late for your moms. But the reverence, the respect for anything your mother does, that's problematic. You wouldn't respect anything your father does, but you'll respect anything your mother does. That's problematic. And this is the reason why men are so eager, so ready to protect women. Now, I'm not talking about your daughter, but I don't disrespect women like that, to be honest myself. I don't go out here trying to smash every chick I can. I've never been that type of guy, because to me, that's giving women too much energy. I could be doing something productive with my own self. And guys like to beat their chest and big up each other for how many women they done smashed. That shit ain't no accomplishment to me, bro. I'm just keeping it 100. All that pickup artist shit, how to be good with women shit, how to score, all that, that's some bullshit to me. Because that's spending all your energy and your efforts chasing some bullshit. But I think that most men have not been able to break the chain. They don't know how to leave the nest. They don't know how to put shit in its proper perspective. But right now, we don't do anything but lionize, praise, I would say worship women. They're human beings, bruh. They shit. They piss. Yeah, they gestate children in the womb. But what's so special about that? So does half the mammalian species on the planet. They gestate children in the womb. It's not magical, man. We figured out how that shit occurs long ago. We know how that happens. We know how that works. But right now, we got a problem on our hands. And I'm about to go back again and explain to you how it started, and even the inability for men to discuss the ways in which this behavior, this dysfunctional behavior, is now normalized, is centered around mother worship, bruh. And it ain't shit to be proud of. It's not justice work. It's fool's work, is what this shit is. So I'm about to show you a video, bruh. And I'm going to react to the video. And I'm going to let you know what I think about it along the way.
Not aware, the illegitimacy rate in the United States among blacks is roughly around 55%. That is, nationally, 55% of all black babies are born out of wedlock. And in some cities like New York and Chicago, you might find 80 or 90%, New York and Washington, D.C. rather. Now, the illegitimacy rate among blacks is a new phenomenon in black history in the United States. That is, in 1940, the illegitimacy rate among blacks was about 12%. In 1918, the illegitimacy rate among black teenagers was less than that among white teenagers. So how do you explain the increase in illegitimacy?
How do you explain it? Let me get cocked and loaded. I'm just getting caught.
Or out of wedlock marriages, or slovenliness in general. Well, I mean, I think any economist would tell you that if you tax something, you're going to get less of it. And if you subsidize something, you're going to get more of it, whether it's wheat, cheese, or slovenly behavior. And indeed, United States, we have been subsidizing slovenly behavior.
There you go. The subsidization of slovenly behavior. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's thought culture. It's bust down culture, bruh. It's thought culture, man. And it doesn't matter if your family member is engaged in it, your mother, your sister, your daughter. It is what it is. It didn't used to be that way. It did not used to be that way. Let me proceed.
That is, we have been making the cost of illegitimacy or having kids out of wedlock relatively cheap. That is through welfare payments, through other kinds of in-kind payments, and then the fact that the modern times of the 60s and the 70s, there was a loss of the ostracism associated with illegitimacy.
Okay, let me cock again.
When I was a young kid, and keep in mind for all of you, I just look very young, but I'm much older than that. But when a black girl would get pregnant, she was a disgrace to her family, and she was sent down south to live with a relative. And because it was just a disgrace. Nowadays, I mean, girls are pregnant and their stomachs, and they're just kind of dancing in the streets, going.
They ain't dancing in the streets. They twerking in the streets. These are the facts, bruh. They twerking in the streets, man. It used to be perceived as disgraceful. Now it's normalized. And of course, this all falls back on men, right? For some reason, men are to blame. It takes two to tango, right? But it used to be a time when if you was a boy and you got somebody's daughter pregnant, motherfucker, you about to marry her ass. You ain't gonna just be running around here fucking and being Pookie and Ray Ray like y'all are so critical of Pookie and Ray Ray. Wouldn't have been none of that back in the day. You about to take care of this shit. We don't need a child support office. We don't need white bureaucratic officials to come in and save anybody. You about to handle this shit. That's the norm. Before the movement and migration of black folks to the north, it was the norm. We had among the highest marriage rates, the highest legitimacy rates, and then all of that just went out of the window. It's done. And in order to not even have to deal with the cognitive dissonance, they have made this shit into a justice issue. This is justice now. It's justice to be a thought. You got people doing walks, slut walks. Tell me how this shit is normal and it's not pathological. Because it has effects for future generations of children. Because you grow up and you see what's been normalized in your culture and it's acceptable. It becomes acceptable. I had you guys go through a couple of videos where I began to talk about ethics. The first time I talked about it, I kind of divided ethics into 4 different parts or different, 4 different moral approaches that you could potentially take towards moral problem solving. The first I talked about was one, way of doing so that was comprised of 3 subparts: moral nihilism, subjectivism, and skepticism. Then we talked about ethical relativism. Ethical relativism was a theory promoted by a woman by the name of Ruth Benedict, who argued that what is normal is a variant of the concept of good. What is normal is a variant of the concept of good. So if it's normal, it's good. If nobody says anything about it, they sanction it. If they say nothing about it, it's good. It's okay. No matter the effects, the consequences, no matter. And that's problematic. So instead of dealing with the effects, the consequences that it has for multitudes of people, we've normalized it. Instead of being able to say, Mama, you was wrong. The behavior that you engaged in was bad. Sister, what you're doing is unacceptable. Now we call it policing black women's bodies. But shit, black women police black men's bodies all day, every day. They call the police, get the child support for the kids, they divorce your ass. They don't have a problem with policing your body. Your body is policed. But damn, you say anything to any one of them about anything whatsoever, and then all of a sudden, you become a misogynist. Explain it. I'll wait. I want an explanation for it. But I ain't gonna wait. I'm just gonna proceed.
In the school and all the social penalties have been withdrawn from it. And so, what?
To whites also.
That's right, and the illegitimacy rate among whites is higher than what it was. So I think that I think one author put it that the welfare state in the United States did more to destroy the black family than slavery could have ever done. That is, slavery and Reconstruction could ever done. That is, black families were far more stable during the Reconstruction period. In New York, in 1920, in New York, 80% of all black children lived in two-parent families. And nationally, up until 1960, it was 75% of blacks lived in two-parent families. And it was roughly equal, a little bit less than that of whites. Today, the number of blacks living in two-parent families is around 42%. And it's declining. And it's Reagan didn't do that. I mean, and it's no evil spirits that explain it. I believe that the welfare state explains it.
Now look, let me just be honest here, okay? Now, I'm critical of black conservatives. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm critical of black conservatives. I'm going to explain to you why. Because I think that more than anything else, what black conservatives do is they minimize the impact of racism. They minimize it. And maybe this is a strategy that they're using because they feel like black people can't handle the explanations or the reasons. I don't know what it is. Okay, maybe it's because they're trying to advance their self-interest professionally. Who knows? I really don't know. But I'm critical because I think all of these institutions have genealogical connections to slavery and racism. I went into detail about how the welfare system is a means by which racist white people were able to manage black women's bodies. They were able to regulate their relationships. But they see it as liberatory. And maybe perhaps it's cognitive dissonance. Don't quite know. Don't quite know. But I know the extension from slavery to Jim Crow to ghettoization, all of them were racist. I know the welfare system was racist. I left sources in the last video I did on welfare. I left at least about 7 books that you can go and read and investigate the matter. But the point is, people don't understand how something starts out and why it was done to begin with. They forget the reasons why, and it becomes habit. it becomes regular. It becomes normalized. And who normalized it? We didn't even normalize it ourselves, and I can prove it. I got my receipts tonight, goddammit. I got my receipts. But before we go there, got another brother who I think also minimizes racism, but I think he's important to investigate. His brother's name is Thomas Sowell. Let's check him out.
Quote, Black Americans, a group often identified as beneficiaries of the welfare state in America, made considerable economic progress in the 20th century. Fine, of course, but much, if not most. This is the thing with you. The dependent clause is where the sting is. But much, if not most, of this progress was prior to the massive expansion of the American welfare state. Close quote. That is so I want to say counterintuitive because we hear so much about African American progress since civil rights and the establishment of the welfare state that it really has become a kind of American intuition. Explain yourself, Dr. Sowell.
Well, as of 1940, 87% of black households were in poverty. Over the next 20 years, that declined to 47%. This is all prior to the civil rights laws, prior to the social welfare policies of the Johnson administration. Over the next 20 years, it fell an additional 18 points. But that was just the same trend continuing at a reduced rate. Affirmative action is even worse because, as I remember, I'm trying to think now, the numbers. I think it was something like, poverty rate was something like 30% among black households before affirmative action. And a decade after affirmative action, it was 29%. This is not the same as the 40% decline that occurred before there were any civil rights laws and before there was any social welfare state.
And so what happened between 1940 and 1960 was the post-Second World War economic boom.
It was
right?
but it was also the massive migration of blacks out of the South.
Now let me stop here. He's right about this, but look, the only problem I have with Thomas Sowell is that he's telling half of the truth and not all of the truth. That's the problem I have with Thomas Sowell. If Thomas Sowell would tell the whole truth and stop being mired in economic theory and just openly admit, okay, there was ghettoization that took place when blacks moved from the South to the North. Now, when blacks first moved from the South to the North, there was labor for them to perform. That's why they came. There's no use coming if there's nothing there. It was something there for them to gain. But you know what? That was circumvented by deindustrialization and by ghettoization. And what I mean by that is they created these ghettos, man. The federal government, and they like to talk about how, inefficient the government is, but it efficiently created a white middle class. It does what it wants efficiently when it wants. Welfare was never intended to be efficient for black people. It was never intended to be that way. The government can do what it wants. Tomorrow, if Biden decided what has happened in this country has been a travesty for black folks, we're going to give them FHA loans retrogressively in order to help close the wealth gap, the wealth gap would be fucking closed. It could be closed. They did it for themselves. And white European immigrants, they did it for them. And they basically uplifted not just one demographic, a gender. They didn't just do that. They lifted the whole fucking family up, is what they did. They lifted men up along with their women. This is what they did. And I can guarantee you this. The first black women that accepted the programs of welfare had no intentions. I guarantee you, they did not have intentions of leaving the men behind forever and calling them deadbeats and telling them they strong and independent and we don't need you. They never intended that shit. But now it's become so normalized that everybody's cool with it now. Regardless of the disastrous effects. They'll just explain the effects away. And all of this shit was predicated upon leaving black men out of the picture. They wrote themselves into the picture. They wrote white men into the picture. They wrote us out of the picture. Those are the facts. And see, they don't admit this shit. And that's the problem I have with these guys. Social programs work when the government wants them to work. It worked with the FHA loans. It worked with the GI Bill. If they wanted to work, it could work. But let me keep going.
So they're getting better education and jobs.
That's right.
Okay. Now, you mention cultural and social retrogressions. Again, I'm quoting you. Arguably the most consequential of these was the decline in two-parent families.
Yes.
Close quote. Explain that one. Among African Americans.
Yes.
We're still talking about African Americans.
Well, you know, when they talk about things like this, they talk about the legacy of slavery.
Right, right.
And I argue, well, empirically, it's not that, it's the legacy of the welfare state. Because as of 1960, which is almost 100 years after slavery ended, the majority of black kids were being raised in two-parent households. But within one generation after the welfare state, that had dropped down to a minority. So that the majority of black kids today are raised in one-parent households. When you think about it, I mean, centuries of slavery and generations of Jim Crow did not destroy the black family, but one generation of the welfare state did.
The Moynihan Report.
And look, what he's saying is correct, but he's not painting the full picture. All they do is attack social programs and talk about how inefficient they are, but you might be deep in the game, but you got some rules missing. You're not telling the whole story, because the whole story is a story in which you tell about how FHA loans and the GI Bill was able to build up a middle class for white people together, because men were the ones who were able to buy those homes. So they created functionality for their families and created dysfunction for ours. And see, look, people don't understand divide and conquer strategy. When you engage in conquest, you kill the men in one way or the other, and you proselytize and commit psychological operations on the women. That's what you do, bruh. That's what you do. And we act like this shit ain't being done. And you got men who refuse to be critical of anything women do because they love their mamas. That's a problem, bruh. But let me keep going.
What was it? A call for national action.
Yes.
The Negro family, a call for national action, 1965, and even 50 years ago. And his principal point of alarm, and again, now I'm trying to recall the statistics, but I believe the out-of-wedlock birth rate among African Americans in 1965 was 25%.
Something like that, yeah.
And he was so alarmed that he wrote this report, and today it's over 70%. And by the way, the rate among whites is over 1/3 at this stage.
Yes.
So how does the family breakdown fit into an economic understanding? Is it something, the social breakdown of the American family is something that we have to understand aside from the tools of economics? It just doesn't fit into supply and demand curves and
certainly
economic history?
this occurred at a time when the black income was rising. And so we're saying that previous generations of blacks with lower income and more racial barriers the family stuck together under those conditions. And under the new conditions, which were advertised to make for great progress, in fact created retrogressions. And I think many people who were gung-ho for the idea that this was going to be progress simply cannot bring themselves to look at the evidence and say, my God, we made things worse.
Now listen, look, welfare made things worse. I'll admit that. It made things a lot worse. But now it's like a drug. And it creates all kind of dysfunction. And like my man, the one drop from Amyets, y'all says, silent weapons for silent wars. This is a soft war. And they knew it. Why else would they give federal subsidies to white families and encourage them to leave the ghettos, but offer no subsidization whatsoever for black people who are doing worse financially than white people, who have less access to jobs than white people, unless it has some racist shit to do with it? Why get them out of the ghetto and leave us there if it wasn't racism? Why? Why give them the GI Bill? We fought in the First, Second World War, Korean War. We fought in all the wars this country had ever had. And we still didn't get our benefits. This has been a bad policy from the beginning. Again, if you want to know how welfare started, it started off with mothers' pensions programs. And it expanded into the ADC. Now, prior to that, I told you about the Murray Wagner Dingle bills in 43 and 45 that was actually progressive. This shit right here is not progressive. This is a Band-Aid on a bullet wound with a program that is not intended to actually deal with the true structural inequalities that exist within the United States at all. It never was intended to be that way. And these people know what they're doing. They know what the effects of what they're doing is and was. They're not stupid. These people are not dumb. They know what they were doing. And this is liberal. And a lot of people like to believe the liberals are not good. I mean, or that they're not evil, or that they're not racist, or that they do everything in, with the view in mind that they're going to help, benefit black folks. If you believe that, you are fucking lost. Because the Democratic Party is and can be just as racist. All these liberal leftists can be just as racist as white conservatives. So that's why I don't have a problem with conservative talking points. I don't. And I don't have a problem with liberal talking points if they're actually liberal. But I told you before, black men have been managed by ghettoization and mass incarceration, and black women have been managed by the welfare state, by transfer programs and bureaucracies. They come in and they tell you what you can and cannot do with your body. They're the police. If you want to look at it, to be quite honest. So while we're being accused of policing black women's bodies, they are the original police of black women's bodies. And there's a lot of people out here who say, and you might not believe me, that women didn't intentionally want to leave men out of the family picture. I don't think they did. But I think now it's become so normalized, and there's a lot of cognitive dissonance and a lot of fucking not wanting to take any blame, not wanting to rectify the situation, that it's out of hand. And somebody's got to say something about it. And I'm here to tell the truth. Straight up, no chaser. So how did black men get put out of the house? Peep game.
My relationship with Pruitt-Igoe was that of a research assistant. I went to Washington University to graduate school in 1964. I was working on a National Institute of Mental Health funded study on social problems in public housing. My role was to study women and girls in Pruitt-Igoe. I was 20 years old. I'd just gotten out of college. Some of the girls were 18 years old, and I was 2 years older, but yet my life was vastly different. As time passed, I did wonder, would my life have been similar to that of the girls had my parents migrated from Mississippi to St. Louis? Would my opportunities have been different? I guess to put it bluntly, I never saw the people in Pruitt-Igoe as that different from the lives of poor people I had grown up with in Mississippi, except for one thing: the strong, tightly knit communities and families in which I grew up had begun to shatter around the people who were displaced in a northern city with few supports.
I told you this. I already been saying this from the beginning. Simple bomb. You got a group of people who had networks and support systems already put into place, but they ventured out. And then when they ventured out to the north, they were corralled into ghettos and left to deal with the hand-me-down living conditions of white folks. And whatever work they could get it. But you already know, black people are among the last hired and the first fired. This is just the facts, especially when it comes to black men. All the networks and family support that existed had to be created anew. That's already a stress. Getting settled in and nestled into a new environment. But that's just only part of a challenge. But there are different challenges. And yeah, the Work Progress Administration, they did lock black men out. The unions locked black men out. The AFL and the CIO. The Congress of Industrial Organizations and the American Federation of Labor, they left us out, bruh. And they got bread and butter shit for themselves. These are the facts, man.
And the policy and the housing authority was to move the poorest of the poor, the most dependent families, to Pruitt-Igoe.
Before we moved into Pruitt-Igoe, the welfare department came to our home. They talked with my mother about moving into the housing project, but the stipulation was that my father could not be with us. They would put us into the housing project only if he left the state.
Did you hear that? Not the damn house. He had to leave the entire fucking state. The state. Now tell me that shit ain't evil. So they give themselves FHA loans, GI bills, move them out of the ghetto and create a middle class, create suburban America. But they offer us this shit as an alternative to deal with our poverty. They had their hands in this shit from the beginning. And now we want to fucking lift this shit up. We want to maintain it instead of overhaul it. Again, habits start off with intention and meaning, and then they morph into something else after time. Right now, this shit is a social practice and is used, is justified under the context of freedom and liberty and feminist, joy and, pleasure, the pleasure principle and all this shit. It didn't start off like that. This shit started off as a way to split up our families. Now you got people in the black community who are working retrogressively to keep this bullshit in place. And if you say something about it, they're going to call you all kind of fuck boys and say you're regressiveness. I mean, you're regressive and you're engaging in misogyny. Why? Because they love their mamas? If you really loved your goddamn mama, you would want her to be fucking hooked up with your goddamn daddy, man. Real talk, bruh. The way I see it, man, these people are engaged in cognitive dissonance. This is what these people are doing. Cognitive dissonance is what these people are on. Now, you can call it what you want. You can say what you want. But this shit right here is dysfunctional and it creates negative consequences for generations of children. Why we would want to keep this shit in place and to continue in this vein is beyond me. But oh well, whatever. That's what y'all want to do? Now they got some shit out here saying if black women ain't free, ain't nobody else free. They freed all them at the same time. They brought all them up to economic parity, or they uplifted them all economically simultaneously. When they deal with us, they deal with us as identity groups, cleaving us apart from one another. Now they done created this intersection shit where you walking around like Humpty Dumpty and shit trying to figure out who the fuck you are. This is crazy to me, man. It's insane, man. But this is where we are.
My mother and father discussed it, and they decided that it was best for the 12 children for the father to leave the home. And that's how we got into the projects.
The welfare department had a rule that no able-bodied man could be in the house if a woman received aid for dependent children. If a man lost his job, he's looking for work, he still had to leave the home. And there was even a night staff of men who worked for the welfare department whose job was to go to the homes of the welfare recipients, and they searched to find if there was a man in the home. Sometimes men came back at night to be with their families. Some were found in the closet hiding.
I remember vividly my mother telling us, if white people come to the house and ask you guys questions, tell them that your father is not here. Tell them that your father has never been here. You have not seen your father. I trusted her. I knew that there was a reason that we had to do this charade. and I participated in the charade. I sat there and looked those people in the eye and told them with pure earnestness that no, I have not seen my father, and no, my daddy does not live here. And but I knew that I was lying, and that made me wonder, who are these people and how do they have the power to make my mother lie?
We're giving you money. We want to be able to control you. We're giving you money, so we have the right to make stipulations as to how you use it and what you use it for. There were so many restrictions. We couldn't have a telephone. We couldn't have a television. And we were really...
Now, peep game now. These are the people working in these fucking offices, telling black folks, well, if you want to receive the aid, and they agreed to this shit. It was a Faustian bargain. The men and women agreed to this situation because they were put in an environment that was basically born to make them fail. It was set up to make them fail. This was doomed for failure from the beginning. You could talk about people, well, it was well-wishing. This shit wasn't no well-wishing. This was designed to create dysfunction. I told you, they managed black men through deindustrialization and incarceration. That's treating women like children. It's treating family, black people like children, man. But I'm going to feed you the reality. It didn't start off with Thot culture. It did not start off that way. But it became that way. And now it's like pigs rolling around in mud, rejoicing in this shit. Now they done got us out of the family, so fuck us. Now they saying men are obsolete. And half of the women saying this shit got husbands at the crib. Explain how that shit works, man. That's some straight bullshit. So they got husbands in the crib, but they telling everybody else, you need to leave your men alone. Leave your men alone. Well, we got our husbands at the crib. Matter of fact, we going home to the suburbs. But you can't have no telephone. We don't want you to have a phone. You gonna get this money from us? So they lifted them up out of these same conditions that we've been in. We still in it. Then you got conservatives saying, we don't need any social programs. They used them, but they gave us this tight, restrictive bullshit. Let me proceed with this. This gets me angry, bruh.
Left at the mercy of the system.
In the project, it seemed to be strategically planned to create that people felt inhuman almost. You're bad. Restraint. It was void of caring. Missing one and you had to escape.
They were treated in some ways like they were prisoners. If we are going to support you and to give you a few these little dollars to live on, then we're going to extract blood from you. You're going to live according to the rules we set. And the rules just happen to be very punitive. there was this whole undertone of morality, that they had poor morality, that they were immoral by virtue of the lifestyles they led. Poverty never created immorality. Poverty created want.
When we first moved in the projects, we couldn't have a television.
Here it is.
And then my mother got a letter that we could have TV.
Barbie's dream house is a wish come true for both of you. And look.
I was always interested in the family programs. Programs with fathers. My Little Margie, where the father was so involved with his daughter.
Margie!
Come on in, Dad.
Margie, you know I've always tried to be both mother and father to you.
You've been wonderful, Dad.
Do you remember that little game we always play when you have a problem that you can't tell your father?
But I haven't got any problems.
Now come, tell me what's wrong.
When I looked at those sitcoms, I just felt like this is the way white people lived. Because black people, from my experience, did not live that way. And I never questioned, I never wondered why. I just figured this is how it is.
We have our home here, and if the colored move in and run real estate values down, it's bound to create tension. And you will have, well, I think their aim is mixed marriages and becoming equal with the whites.
Well, I just could not live beside them. I don't feel that they should be oppressed. But I moved here. One of the main reasons was because it was a white community. And that's the only place I intend to live.
So look, man, I'm trying to explain to you how this shit occurred so you can have some information about it, bro. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be the catalyst for reason to explain to you how all of this began and how we are where we are now. But see, now it started off with these white people being restrictive, but it's morphed into something different. They've basically habituated us into this dysfunction. We didn't start like this. Now it's an excuse. Oh, well, you know, I need a high value man. Oh, well, he wasn't ambitious enough. Or, oh, well, he ain't educated. All of this has a source. It has a source. You took the men out of the house. These people did this. They know what they're doing, man. They are not stupid. These people have been in an active war and conquest against each other and other groups of people for centuries, man. They know what they're doing. We just trying to figure it out. And now we engage in identity politics, which is a bunch of neoliberal, bourgeois, trying to be like white motherfucker bullshit. But if I say it, oh, well, you know, that PhD nigga, he don't know nothing, he don't know nothing. I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla Channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla Channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla Channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. Yeah, man, I ain't even mean to do that shit right there. I ain't even mean for that scene to come on. I apologize for that. But it did. So I'm trying to tell you how all this started. But once things start and you put them on a path, they take on a life of their own. So we just got a bird's eye view of how this began. But this is where we are now. This is where we are now. Peep it out.
None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. You know, it's a lot of responsibility. And then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so, you know, it really, male figures are not substantially important in the family.
Thinking about
so you see,
sex,
hold on. The male in the family is not substantially important. Black men are not substantially important in the family. This is something that they trained us to believe. And now we eat and sop it up like biscuits. Now this is our new normal. They created this pathology, and now pathology is our normal. It didn't start off this way. The women and the men did not want it this way. They created this problem. And they're perpetuating this problem with ideology now. These are the facts, man. Once you set something in place, now you have a culture. And look at Pookie. This is a Pookie. Look at him. Listen to what he's got to say.
Man, you know, if a girl, you know, she get having a baby, carrying a baby, hey, that's on her. You know, I'm not going to stop my pleasures because of another woman.
What about birth control? What about condoms?
Girls don't like them things. They don't like them things. They'll tell you to take them things off. They figure that you saying that they filthy or they dirty or something.
It's been a startling change in values. 25 years ago, you would not have heard such things said so freely because they were not embraced so widely. The strong family was still the backbone of Black America, and 3 out of 4 children had both parents at home. That is true no longer. Most Black children are now growing up without their fathers. The result is a world turned upside down as children copy what they see and repeat what they learn. LaDawn said she didn't have a father in her home and doesn't think her children need one. She's not unusual. Half the Black families today are headed only by a woman. Clorinda said she could make it on her own as a single parent. She has never been married and is raising her daughter without a man's help. She's not unusual. Today, nearly 60% of all Black children are born out of wedlock. Timothy said his children are not his responsibility. He has left them to be supported by their mothers and welfare. He's not unusual either. For LaDawn and Clorinda and Timothy, and many more like them in cities all over America, the traditional family no longer exists. It has vanished, and something new is taking its place. Single women and the children they're rearing alone are the fastest growing part of the Black population. What becomes of the Black family in a world where the values are being turned upside down?
If the parent is 17 and 18, uneducated, unmotivated, fooling around, wandering around, what's the child going to learn? Who's the teacher? When you learn something, you was taught by your parents. It was reinforced by school and your neighbors, but it was taught by your parents. Well, if the parents don't know anything, how are they going to teach the children? So it's not racism that I'm fighting right now. It's the lack of motivation. See, I'm not even talking about racism. Maybe later on we'll get back to that. But I think we are destroying ourselves.
So, yeah. That woman right there, I know she means well, but her analysis has something to be lacking. It's not giving a full account. She's myopic in her view. Because she's seeing and only dealing with interpersonal relations amongst black folks without taking into consideration the systems that set this shit in motion to begin with. But I got the pieces to the puzzle. And I'm going to tell it straight, no chaser, and keep it real. I ain't trying to be ignorant, but those little girls there, man, they have been enculturated into thought culture. This is bamboozling. This is what bamboozling is. This is what being led astray, run amok is. This is what that is, man. And all the while, black men are being forced to sit back and look at this shit and not say anything. Because we love our mothers. I'm just here to put you on the path to let you know what I know and how I see it. Now, if you say I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not trying to make you hate your mother. I'm trying to get you to see that in a great deal of instances, your mother's been confused, and a lot of your dads have been too. But see, we can talk about daddy, but we can't talk about mama. But if we don't have the testicular fortitude to tell women what the fuck is going down and how it went down that way, then we are fucking lames. We got to tell the truth about this shit, man. But it's beginning to seep into popular culture everywhere. And who has something to gain from this? Who's actually gaining from this kind of social arrangement? This is not welfare for entire families. This is a way to manage a population of people. This is what this shit is. This is not a universal basic income. It's not a Homestead Act. It's not a FHA Act. This is the micromanaging of people's lives under the aegis of freedom. How can something that starts with such insidiousy and paternalism actually be some shit that brings you freedom? I want to understand. I don't get this, man, how people can think that this shit is freedom. This is liberatory. I'll wait, man. The name of the documentary is called The Vanishing Family. Thank you, Kareem Henry, for becoming a member. And I don't mean to be deprecating, because it's a lot of male thoughts out here too. So if you want to call it Pookie and Ray Ray, whatever you want to call it, it's still slovenly behavior. And it has consequences. Black people, black men, nor women cavorted around this way. Now this is the norm. And I'm just trying to tell you the truth, man. And the name of the video is called "The Vanishing Black Family." And Imperator tried to put it out there, but the bot must have blocked him or something like that. And I don't I think it's because you put all caps that it did that. Not because I did it from behind, the evil from the evil chair behind the scenes. It just did that on its own. And I apologize for that. So a lot of people like to assume that all I'm doing is attacking women. I think black men and women have been bamboozled. I think we both been run them up, led astray. And these liberals got just as much venom for us as these conservatives. So that's why I don't get caught into all this politics shit. That's why I don't, man. Because I think they're both snakes. It's like we got to reinvent the wheel each generation because of how fucking dumbfounded we are by these colonizers, man. And these goddamn supremacists. And they'll tell you they being liberatory as a motherfucker while they stabbing you in the back. Then if you even speak about it, they'll call you a racist. If you got the gumption to speak on it, you are going to either be a racist or you're going to be a misogynist. That's crazy, bruh. But this is what we dealing with, man. You are. For even mentioning it. So I'm here to just tell you what the truth is, man, the way I see it. Now, if you think I'm wrong, I want you to come in. You tell me where I'm giving you some shit, this misinformation. These people, through government policy, gave white folks middle class status. They gave us ghetto status. And we still have been able, many of us have been able to climb out of these chaotic conditions. But not enough of us. And they still doing everything they can to split us apart and to keep us down. And a lot of this shit is done by white women. They act like we're oppressed. Man, come on, man. These women have been just as insidious as their men have. And now they use this goddamn theory, this feminist theory, in order to try to, evade culpability. They part of the cesspool too. But divide and conquer, that's what they do. Now you got a generation of people who really actually want to keep up this shit. I'm telling you right now, man, this is classic conquest genocide type shit in full effect. But I'm here to take away the chains, take away the pains, remake the brains, reveal my name. Shit, I'm here to give it to you. Am I pissed off at these policies? Yes. Am I pissed off at both the conservatives and Republicans for kicking this shit in and keeping it the way that it is? Yes. This is a management of populations. And at least the conservatives are willing to say, this is not good policy. This is not a good policy. Now, I know this from philosophy. It's better to be a human dissatisfied than it is to be a pig satisfied. I don't know if it's cognitive dissonance. I don't know if it's, self-deception. I don't know what this shit is. But at this point, look, now you got the information. Male, female, black, white, red, brown, purple, yellow, whatever the fuck. Gay, straight, now you know. So once you've been made aware, there's no more excuses anymore. No more excuses. This shit was initially started, and it was pernicious from the beginning when it did, bruh. It was initially started with perniciousness in mind. And now you got all these arguments out here about, well, niggas, you niggas ain't shit. You niggas ain't this. You niggas ain't that. You niggas is dusties and crusties. While you sitting there getting told what to fucking do by these white people. Who don't mean you good at all. But I'm fucked up though, right? I'm just fucked up for even bringing it up. How dare you? How dare you say something about my mama? Your mama been led astray. Mamas can get food too. They don't always know best. And now this shit is put forth as freedom. Oh, this is liberatory. It's us doing our thing. Really? That's some psychological bullshit. And as the brother in the chat off code says, it's menticide, is what it is. It is menticide. Word to Bobby Wright. It's menticide. But black people believe any damn thing. They'll listen to anybody that sounds good and they put forth some preacher voice or some shit like that. This is what black folks are lulled into. Niggas sound good, they listening. They gonna give everything. They break out the collection plate. Where do we go from here, man? All I'm trying to do is expose and to get better at exposure and letting people know what's been going on. And why I don't trust nobody. I ain't saying all bad white folks, every last one of them is fucked up. A lot of these people have been doing this research, pointing this shit out. A lot of them have been bringing awareness to these issues. And some of them been quiet, lying behind the scenes, pulling strings, trying to keep discord up. But anyway, man, I ain't gonna keep talking, man. I'm almost 2 hours in. I just wanted to bless you with the information. And I appreciate your support and your participation in dealing with me, man, because I know I'm an asshole at times. I know I am. And the only way I can get you in is to be inflammatory and to have shock value. That's the only thing that draws y'all in. But now we live in a thought culture, man. And it's all started by these white people meddling in the family affairs of black folks. They didn't meddle in white people's affairs like that. No sirree, Bob, they did not. They meddled in our shit. They gave them houses in the suburbs and told us, you can't have no telephones or television or a man in the hood. I'm out of here, man. I'll holler at y'all the next time, bro. I'll probably be back tomorrow. I'm going to talk about Megan Thee Stallion and Maxine Waters. They just did a new interview. I want to look at that. So, I'm out here, man. I'll holler at y'all next time, bro. Y'all be in good tidings and good health. Men and women, man. We out.